This is a presentation on the Ray Rice Crisis Management case. My name is Emmerich Beard, and this is the context of the Crisis Management in Media model at Coventry University. We'll first look at the timeline of the event to fully understand what happened. In February 2014, Ray Rice was involved in a domestic violence incident with his then fiancée at a casino in New Jersey. He was seen dragging his fiancée out of an elevator on a videotape that was released a few days later on the 19th. By TMZ, which is a media outlet. In March 2014, he was indicted on a charge of third-degree aggravated assault, but it wasn't until July 2014 that he was given a 2-game suspension by the NFL. In August, on the 1st, the commissioner, Roger Goodell, held a press conference explaining how he had come to the decision of giving a 2-game suspension, and facing backlash afterwards, on the 28th, a new policy for domestic violence was introduced. In September, a full video was released showing Rice striking his then-fiancée in the elevator before the exit. His contract was terminated and he was indefinitely suspended from the NFL. We'll then move into looking into the NFL relationship with the media. Before this incident, the NFL was seen as having an economic and promotional partnership with the media, as they were not only reliant on media for the promotion of their content, the diffusion of the games, but they're also heavily invested financially. From the 2013 to the 2022 period, the NFL will receive $28 billion in fees from Fox, CBS, and NBC regarding broadcast. During the events itself, there was a press conference that was given on the 1st by Roger Goodell, where he directly apologized for the mistakes that he had made in handling the case, and he acknowledged that there were some missteps that were done. This was important in rehabilitating the league's image, and it was overall well received by the media and seen as being truthful. A few days later, in the month, he released a letter to the NFL owners, which was then released on the ESPN website, in which he made no attempt to make excuses or shift the blame, but simply acknowledged the fact, again, that he had mishandled the case, which is a strategy that's recommended by comms. He took full responsibility and admitted to not getting it right, and that they needed to do better. Although the policy was modified and applauded by many, some experts did question openly in the media whether or not this policy would effectively reduce domestic violence and help protect the victims. There's a final incident during the crisis that is worth mentioning in terms of relationship with the media. The Baltimore Ravens held a press conference, which was indeed a joint press conference with Ray Rice and his now wife, Janae, during which she said that she had that she apologized for the role that she played in this incident. By having her up there with them, it gave the impression that she had a role to play and that she really did indeed share responsibility. And this was portrayed negatively in the media. Furthermore, it was seen in some way as a minor attempt to shift the blame to include other parties as well and not just Rice in this incident. Following the Ray Rice crisis, there's another high-profile domestic abuse case in the NFL, the Greg Hardy case, a season later. Although the NFL did try to implement more strict consequences on Hardy, he successfully won his appeal through the union as the new policy had not come into effect. However, this didn't prevent Roger Goodell and the NFL from being heavily criticized in the media for the lack of severity in the suspension that was given to Greg Hardy. The Dallas Cowboys organization, which is part of the NFL, the team that signed Greg Hardy after he was charged with domestic abuse, was also portrayed in a very negative light in the media. It's led to continued criticism, as mentioned, in different media outlets regarding the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys, and Greg Hardy himself. The NFL has continued to send unofficial or mixed messages regarding its values to stakeholders, as Hardy, whose suspension was reduced from 10 to 4 games after the appeal, missed the same number of games as Tom Brady did, who was accused of potentially having played a role in deflating footballs, hence placing these two offenses at the same level. Tony Bradshaw, who's a host on Fox NFL Sunday, a pregame show that is put on by Fox, one of the NFL's key media partners, as seen beforehand, and a major stakeholder, harshly criticized Greg Hardy and the NFL live during a broadcast. He said that players like him did not belong in the NFL and criticized the Dallas organization, the Cowboy organization, for bringing him onto their team as well, regardless of what he had been charged for. We will now use the crisis management strategies and look at the Pearson and Mitroff model, 5-stage model, to fully understand the different strategies that were used by the NFL. There is an overlap between the containment and the recovery stages, as the NFL had already started to recover its image when the full video was released in September 2014, hence forcing the NFL to do some more containment while continuing the recovery and learning process after the initial video was released. The first stage is the signal detection. There's a clear lack of detection with regards to signals, and it was a very late detection as well. As seen as the NFL player arrest database provided by USA Today, there have been numerous numbers of players arrested for domestic abuse or domestic violence. We could tell that a pattern was developing, however, the NFL failed to address that or identify it. The league should have also enabled its staff to better identify players that might need help or that might be at risk for this kind of behavior. Because of the lack of signal detection and the lateness in which it identified what was happening in the Ray Rice case, the NFL was forced to react to media reports and public condemnation instead of being able to address it beforehand. The next stage is the preparation and prevention. Again, there's a lack of preparation, and the different mishaps that happened during the crisis showed and demonstrated that the NFL was not prepared to deal with this intensive scrutiny from the media and general public regarding the handling of this type of case. There is also an absence of guidelines and recommendations by the NFL as to how to deal with players that are not convicted of sexual assault because the victim, for example, did not want to press charges, but that are still been accused of it, and in what way they would handle their own internal punishment. Because of this, the NFL has given a soft image with a soft stance on domestic violence, and it doesn't really show that it's standing by its firm values. It also lacks somewhat professionalism, given that the NFL, for example, did not get the video ahead of time and had seen it at the same time as it was released to the general public. The third stage of containment and damage limitation comes after the initial video was released. The first strategies that were used were bolstering and reducing the initial offensiveness of the event. The coach, Jim Harbaugh, for the team, put the emphasis on Rice's character, emphasizing his attitude and work ethic to restore his image. He also said that he hadn't heard of anything that would prevent Rice from playing, which is an attempt to reduce the initial offensiveness of the event, as described by Benoit in his strategy in 1997. Although Goodell was successful and provided detailed steps as to what the NFL was going to do next, they were unsuccessful in terms of sending a consistent message, which is a key element at this stage, according to Nicholson. But some decisions that have been made send a mixed negative message to the public. For example, the following month, Josh Gordon was handed the same length of a suspension for marijuana use, hence again putting those two offenses at the same level. At the recovery stage, Goodell correctly identified the relevant audiences and adapted his message to these. The press conference was used for the general public and the media, whereas a letter was used to directly address the NFL owners and forward to their staff afterwards. The strategy of mortification was used and was necessary given the severity of the situation and the number and the reaction in the media. It was important for Goodell to directly apologize for how it was handled. In an attempt to restore the public image, the Commissioner did participate in visits to two main resources in the United States, the National Domestic Violence Hotline and the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. This was one strategy that was used by the NFL was to turn this negative event into an opportunity to educate the general public on the severity of domestic abuse through PSAs, for example, that were run during the season and during the Super Bowl. In the final stage of learning and redesign, one of the main redesigns that was brought forward was adding in-house experts to the NFL, for example, an NFL senior advisor on domestic violence and sexual assault. This has helped make adjustments to the policy and help them develop a preparation and prevention plan in the future. Many policy modifications were made, including the length of suspensions moving forward for any player accused of domestic violence. For example, any player at the first offense will be given a minimum of a 6-game suspension, and at the second offense will be given a lifetime ban from the NFL. There are many other adjustments that were made, or outreach measures, for example, improving the new players' education at the Rookie Symposium by developing and enhancing the domestic violence and abuse segment, by identifying at-risk personnel and offering preventive counseling. Another critique that was done was that Roger Goodell had too much power and authority when it came to deciding what the suspensions were. Hence, this new policy has been redesigned so that it is not open to the decision of only one single figure to make the final decision. The NFL has also worked on its corporate commitment image by donating to multiple domestic abuse causes. Galway and Kwanzaa-Ado stated that in order to be successful, sport organizations must operate and behave in ways that conform to social norms and expectations. However, that's not what the NFL has done with its dealing of the crisis, in this case the Ray Rice crisis. To some extent, it's projected a de-alignment of the NFL values with societal values, which is a key reason as to why there must be better response in the future and more appropriate use of media and PR strategies. Just in the 2014-2015 season, more players have been arrested and charged for this offense. Although the new player conduct policy has been highly publicized and implemented and overall accepted, the NFL has yet to send a clear message to its players, fans, and other stakeholders that it will not tolerate this type of behavior and that it will result in consequences. Until a player is suspended under the new policy, the NFL will not have fully rehabilitated its image.